Welcome back to the Hartbeat Podcast. I'm Jadon. I'm joined by my co-host Zane Hutton again, and today we are talking to Miss Lee, who is over 3 different clubs: Youth Legislator, Stock Market Club, and Mock Trial.
And Interact.
And Interact. Okay,
that's a lot.
It's a lot of stuff to work with.
That's right. So before we get into this, Miss Lee, can you let's bring it to a big picture here. Why is it important for students to experience things like Youth Leg, experience things like Stock Market Club, and Mock Trial as well? Why should students get into this?
Because you learn better.
You learn better.
And it's easy to look at a textbook and read how a bill is supposed to become a law and all that extra. You can sing, Schoolhouse Rock and all you want, but when you actually have to write a bill, and then you go to committee and get it passed, you have to speak on it, you have to defend it, and then you have to take it to the other chamber and do the same thing, and then go convince the youth governor to sign it. It's a whole different experience.
So you get to learn as you go, basically, and not just as it is per piece of paper.
Like an on-the-job training.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's like...
How do you think that changes perspectives for students that will originally think that laws would be kind of easy to pass, but when you're actually in there trying to debate people on it, how do you think it would change their mindsets on it?
Well, it's interesting because you hear students complain about so-and-so didn't like my bill. I don't understand why. They just stood up and said it was a bad bill. And did you talk to them beforehand? No, I didn't know they were going to hate it and all that. It's teaches you how to work with people too. And you have to go to the other schools and the other delegations and say, hey, this is why I think this bill is going to work. And then you find out ahead of time if there's going to be any opposition so you can prepare for it. That's real life. And that's why they learned cooperation to get something done like that if they really want it. Because what will happen is the other schools will say, well, I've got this other bill that I'd like passed, and maybe you can help me on that. And it comes to, a little compromise there, and you get stuff done. That's one of the problems we have now in our real legislature in Congress.
Yeah.
It's so partisan, it's hard to work with the other side to get things done. So hopefully it's practical.
So they're not preparing enough, or do you think students need to work with each other more with that kind of stuff?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
And our civil discourse is so terrible right now.
Yeah.
I think when you go do these things and you meet these people, and they're only just kids like y'all are kids, they have different interests, what's more important to them and their bills and things, but you can find common ground. Absolutely. And you make them really good friends too. We had people in Youth Leg that were so excited to go back just so they could, spend time with the other students at the other schools that were there the year before too, because they made friends with them. Wow. So it's a great way to meet people and learn to cooperate with them.
You think it gives them a huge confidence as well going into these kind of things, being able to learn and experience all this?
Oh yeah, because not a lot of people have not spoken in public when you're in high school, and some of y'all are scared to even say stuff in class. And I understand that, but at least when you get out there, and it's not like a bunch of people are watching you. It's other students, so there's no parents and teachers, looking at everything you're saying and everything. It's a way to get out there and, hey, I can do this. If I'm passionate about something, I can get up and talk about it.
Yeah,
and I can defend it.
To be able to do your own ideas out in public. Yeah.
Yeah.
How important do you think it is to learn civil discourse and really public speaking and being comfortable in your own skin, talking to people in high school and kind of in a Christian worldview as well?
Well, I think it sets you apart immediately because so many people, our own politicians today, will immediately, go to obscenities. It's amazing. I mean, that never used to happen, at least in my lifetime. You never had that on television where you're interviewing a politician and they would just throw F-bombs and stuff. It's like, what? These are members of Congress. There's a mayor somewhere, or, where does this come from? Do they not have a vocabulary that they can talk about without resorting to that? And becomes ad hominem attacks, which in other words, let's attack the person instead of the idea. And it has been pretty bad lately. It's not historically unusual, but it's just in my lifetime, I've seen it get really, really bad. But I have a lot of hope that hopefully kids that are growing up now and can be used to a civil environment, used to discussing things without attacking somebody, that they will take that to their jobs in the future, and maybe we won't be quite as hostile to each other.
Yeah, it's good to learn how to, because still we're one country. It should be the people against the problem, not one side and the other side versus each other, with the problem somewhere mixed in there. But I want to move on to kind of specifics into what each club is, because one main reason why we started doing this podcast is to try to get interest into other clubs. Because me personally, I would have thought that, because I wanted to join a couple different clubs, and sometimes I didn't even know they existed. And there's so much around here that I didn't even know existed. So I want to talk a little bit about youth leg, because I've heard a lot about mock trial. I've heard a lot about stock market because I was in stock market club. But can you run us through and just kind of explain what Youth Legislator does and how you can join?
Sure. We'll start first thing next year, because you have to have your bills done by the beginning of October, I believe. So you got to start right away. And what's interesting about Youth Leg is you can't really describe it until you experience it, because people get so into it. When you want to be called on to speak on a bill, you hold up your little placard and you scream, "Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker!" You don't want to be called on. And it's very loud and it's very, chaotic. And it's an interesting experience to go through. I think it's great if you go experience it once, because at first it's very intimidating. It's like you want to sit there and like, I don't know what's going on here. But then you get into it. It doesn't take long before you're up there screaming, "Mr. Speaker," you want to get up there too. But you just find something that you're passionate about, that you think should be a law, a state law. This is all state legislative stuff, right? And here's an example of what we did last year, or some of the years past. There was a good bill about, at the time, there was a tax-free weekend for like school clothes. And that was all it was. And I think Florida or somebody passed a law that said that it also means school supplies. And so somebody from the school said, let's do that. Let's propose a bill that said school supplies should be tax-free on like the last weekend of July, say, before school started. And they put together a bill. I helped them draft the specifics of it, but it's their idea. And that's the one thing, it's supposed to be your idea.
Right.
And we drafted it up and uploaded it, and they took it to the legislature and argued it and defended it, went through both chambers and got the youth governor to sign it. And like the very next year, the legislature did it. It's like they had an idea from our bill or something. It's great.
Wow.
So yeah, that's the way you learn, is to do it. And then you know that, okay, in the future, if you think, hey, we need another traffic light down on which road, but we may say you want one, right? You know how to fix it. You need to go to your board of supervisors and say, hey, I want you to propose that we petition to get a light at this intersection. And you know how to push it, and you know who to call, and you know how to argue for it in the council meetings and stuff, and you can get it done. So it's a practical life experience, if nothing else. And you can do it civilly without getting mad at people and yelling at them and stuff. Now that's Youth Leg. It's kind of fun. And almost every year we have some outstanding students who get awards as outstanding legislators or outstanding senators. This year we had two students get outstanding press people. You can be a press person at Youth Leg and cover the Youth Leg like a press corps person would do. So you make articles, you take pictures and upload all that kind of stuff. It's kind of neat. You can be a lobbyist. In other words, your job is to travel around to the different committees and push your delegation's bills. So, there's all kind of different things you can be. And even freshmen can do it and be pages if they want to. That's how you learn. You give messages back and forth to each of the committees and things. And it used to be kind of fun because we used to spend 4 nights at a hotel in Jackson. And it was like 7:30 to 9:30 at night. We went full board for 4 days. Since the pandemic, they cut it back a little bit to 3 days, and it's a day trip back and forth. But it's okay. You still get the same experience, right?
That's awesome.
But this is what you feel like. It's great. You got to try it. No one's going to force you to stay again next year if you don't like it.
Yeah. How long do y'all do, or how many times do y'all do the meetings?
Well, that's up to the students, believe it or not. They've got to tell me when they can be there.
Yeah.
That's the biggest problem for all these clubs that I find, is getting everybody time to meet in one, every Monday at homeroom, or every, mock trial used to be an afternoon thing.
Mhm.
And then people started having to have jobs in the afternoon. We couldn't meet. So it's very difficult. In fact, I'm about to set a meeting for Saturday afternoon
The
to work,
weekend.
to get ready for the mock
Mhm.
trial, because mock trial is on the 31st.
Uh-huh.
So it's hard to meet.
Right.
There's so much goes on in the school, and that's not a bad thing. It's just there's so much stuff that's going on. It's hard to find time to meet. But if the kids are invested, they'll find time. And they'll say, okay, I talked to so-and-so, and so that we can all meet on, Tuesday evening or something. Okay, fine. I'm lucky enough to be flexible. I can do all that stuff now and meet them whatever time they need to meet. Whatever time you want to meet, I'll be there. So.
Right.
What other clubs are, let's see. Well, stock market game is not, it's one of the things you kind of play with on your own.
Mhm.
And
You give us freedom for it so we can learn it ourselves.
yeah, and you can go online and go on one of these, Morningstar, or one of these big online kind of brokers, and ask them, what do you think the 10 best stocks are? And they'll tell you, and you can go invest in those. That's not cheating or anything.
Right.
You can ask your parents, what are y'all invested in? What do you recommend? Or you just like a product yourself.
Mhm.
Ooh, Lululemon stuff, which everybody seems to like. Go invest in
A lot of
Lululemon.
girls, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, that's what's kind of fun about it. And it's monopoly money. It's not like real money.
Yeah.
So you get $100,000 to start investing and learn.
Mhm.
But what I try to tell students that get involved in this is don't be scared of investing. Yeah, it's a risk involved. Of course it is. But if you do it for the long term, most of the time you're going to come out okay.
Yeah.
On average, since the Great Depression, the stock market's gained about 10% a year. That's more than a savings account would give you.
Yeah.
But you shouldn't invest all your money in the stock market.
Right.
You got to learn to diversify. And as you get older, you want to be more safer. So you get stocks that are more traditional and aren't very volatile. Like there's no way at my age I would invest in Bitcoin. There's no way.
Yeah.
It's just too volatile.
Right.
It may be great and may make a lot of money in the next 10 years or whatever for me, but it's not worth it for my peace of mind.
That's fair. It's a lot of money to invest in for it too as well.
Right. But it's fun to try out, because it's not like you're really losing the money.
Right.
But hopefully it gets you where you're not as scared to say, okay, part of my savings needs to go to wealth building.
Mhm.
And that's what investments would be, as opposed to saving for an emergency or tithing or just paying your bills.
Right.
But hopefully they learn from that. That's what I'm hoping you learn from that.
I've learned a lot in stock market club already.
There you go.
Yeah, especially since I gained last year for it. So.
Yeah, your team was the only one that did.
Yeah.
But that's okay. That's okay. That's how you learn.
Yeah.
Okay, what other things was...
We got
But I want to talk a little bit in the stock market because I'm interested in it. And I did learn a lot last year because I had hands-on experience trying to do it because I was there in the club. I think I lost like $1,000, sadly, because I lost track of it towards the end because I was trying to do exams.
Well, it's so hard in the 13-week span of doing it because the stock market is for the long term.
Yeah.
And you've got to take the losses sometimes. And what's nice about if you're going to income reinvest, or if you're going to put the same amount of money every month in a savings account or investment fund, if it goes down, you're buying more stock.
Right.
If it goes up, you're buying less, but you're making money.
Mhm.
So it means that you continually put the same amount in every month. On average, it's going to go up.
Right.
You just have to have patience and a little intestinal fortitude to get through the bad times.
Well, what I learned from last year is I need to buy more stock because I kept,
You had a lot of cash left.
Right. Because I was trying to keep it safe, and I just bought 15, 25, something like that. And my dad was like, no, you got to get more and more. I'm like, okay, I'll put some more.
Well, you want to have some available if you have a big dip in the market, so you can go in and get some stuff that's cheap.
Yeah.
With a 13-week period, I was investing in NVIDIA, and that right towards the end, because it was doing good, and then it was that one point where NVIDIA just dropped for
Was
some
that when
reason.
they had the Chinese AI company?
Yeah, that one
like that.
Out, and it just dropped.
Yeah, you never know when that kind of stuff was going to happen.
And when the game ended, there it goes, right back up. This works for me.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
I recommended Tesla too to some people, and it had been doing really, really well. And then Elon got in trouble for his political acts, and it dropped a lot.
Yeah.
But it's back up. So, it's one of those things you've got to plan on long term.
Mhm.
Don't panic the first time that happens.
Right.
From personal experience, I can tell you a lot of people panicked in 2008 in real life when we had the Great Recession.
Great Recession, yeah.
There was a secretary in the office that I worked where she went and took all of her money out of her retirement because she panicked and said, I want to start a business or something. And she did that and it failed. Yeah. So if she had only just held on and just, I got to where I didn't want to look when it can't just come in the mail. These days nothing comes in the mail anymore. When the state would come in the mail, I don't even want to open it. I don't want to open it. But that's the best thing. You just keep putting the same amount of money in and just don't look.
Yeah.
And sure enough, it came back. So, I've supplemented my income very nicely over the last few years. So I'm happy.
It's a great skill to learn because not a lot of people do it nowadays. And a lot of people have different strategies for it. But I think it's just a great skill for people to learn, especially learning to take risk. And even if you don't own your own business, it's still, you're learning how to invest and do stuff like that.
Sure. When you get out of school, go find a mutual fund, just a little mutual fund, and start right away. Because if you understand compound interest and stuff, the earlier you start, the more money you're going to make down the road. Just, little $10 a month.
Yeah.
If you have to start that much. And maybe you can work up to $25 a month. And before long, you get $100 a month. And it just snowballs. You just got to do it, though.
Yeah, wing it, yeah.
Make it a bill. Really, it is a bill. I got to pay the mutual fund, That's what you have to do.
So this one's mock trial is coming up soon.
Yes.
And I've seen some people talk about it, show me kind of the list of things that people are doing. Can you walk us through kind of what the case is this year?
Sure. It's a criminal case. It's a negligent homicide case, which is kind of interesting. They have a couple of songwriters that got together and made a band, and they kind of fell apart. One guy wanted to expand, and a lot of people were talking about how do you go big, and we're going to have big concerts with pyrotechnics and all this sort of thing. And the other guy's like, I don't want to do that. I just want to keep singing my acoustic songs and be happy, which is fine. But they had an agreement that was on a napkin that they agreed to that said we jointly own the songs. So the guy that was trying to stop the expansion was kind of out of luck because he had agreed to share all the stuff. So the case is when they had their big debut pyrotechnic thing, all the fans got this text messages that something bad's going to happen at the concert. And all of a sudden the pyrotechnics went wrong and big explosions, smoke everywhere, fire kind of thing. And there was a big stampede and a woman got killed. So they start investigating and they determined that the disgruntled partner that didn't want the guy to take all the songs and go big, sort of, had tampered with the pyrotechnics. And he's the one that sent the email out and caused the panic. So there's a woman dead. So he's been charged with negligent homicide. So it's a very interesting case, I think, because
that is interesting.
They don't have direct evidence. They've got some circumstantial evidence that he was seen around the equipment beforehand and things like that. And some of the stuff he said online. And anyway, you had to put the case together as the prosecution to show that he was directly responsible for this woman's death.
Yeah. It's kind of like a puzzle, right?
Right. And these cases are designed where both sides have something to argue. It's not an open and shut case or anything.
Right.
So the way mock trial works is you play both sides of the case. So you've got attorneys that will play prosecutors and witnesses for the prosecution. And then you have to turn around and be the defense counsel and have witnesses for the defendant. So you have to play both roles. So it's kind of
like devil's advocate for each side. Okay.
All right.
I like that.
So they have to write their opening statements. They have to decide, okay, what do we want to prove out of witness A? What do we want to prove from witness B and C? And write out the questions. And, I can help if they're stuck or something like that. But they're supposed to at least have the initial this is what we're going to do. This is what our theme of the case is going to be, that kind of thing.
Right.
And so they write them all out and they practice. And this is the difficult part, is getting everybody together to practice. But they'll get up and practice their opening statements. They'll get up and practice asking questions of the witness, cross-examining the witness, handling objections, because the rules of evidence that we use in real court are used at mock trial. Like hearsay objections and relevancy and all the normal things you see on TV all the time. They have to be ready for those objections because we play other schools. So if you're the prosecution, the other school is going to be the defense. So you're not going to have to cross-examine their witnesses. So, you got to be prepared because sometimes the witness is very intransigent, doesn't want to say a thing.
Right.
I don't remember. Right. Well, how do you handle that? How do you handle a witness that's being uncooperative? And that's what you kind of practice.
Okay.
And so they have to learn to do stuff on their feet because the judge will, or objection. Okay, and the judge will say, counsel, what do you say? You got to have something to say.
Right.
So you practice tap dancing every now and just say something.
Do the students get to choose which role they have?
Generally,
okay.
Yeah. If we have more, and right now we have more people that want to do it than actual slots. Usually we have enough people that drop out beforehand that we need more. We need a body. But yeah, they generally, I'll ask them, do you want to be attorney? You want to be a witness? Usually first year people want to be witnesses just so they get used to it.
Right.
And then next year, I want to be an attorney. It's like, great, whatever, But the whole thing is I don't go looking for people like I want to get the best students in the whole school. I want to get all the people that are jockeying for valedictorians. I want all the smart people. It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
The thing is to learn. If you understand how the system works, maybe you understand real life situations better. Like next year would be a civil case. They go back and forth between criminal cases and civil cases. So if you ever get involved in a car accident or something, you kind of know how it all works, at least if you have to go to trial.
Right.
So, it's a good experience for practical life too. Plus, you need to learn to speak in public. And the judge is going to be looking at you, and these are local lawyers that will be the judges. And they'll say, like, counsel, how do you respond to that hearsay objection? You got to say something.
Right.
So you got to be on your feet and say, well, I don't think that's hearsay, Your Honor. It doesn't go to prove the truth of the matter asserted. Whatever. You learn the way to do it. And you don't have to be an expert on all this stuff. You know the major objections and how to respond to them, and you practice a little bit and you get good at it. And you have some fun. It's a little play acting. If you're a witness, you're just being drama. You're going to be the defendant. You're just like, I have nothing to do with this. You get into the drama of it.
Right.
It's fun.
So even if even if it's the same case, people can act differently in each thing because they can decide. Different schools can decide that they want to be obstinate or they don't want to speak or they want to do something else and be different from what y'all practice.
Yes.
Even though y'all have roughly the same case.
True, but you do have people from certain schools that are notorious for memorizing these long narratives. And they'll get you ask one question, tell me what you know. And they'll look at the jury and they'll say, well, I want to tell you about blah, 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 blah. And they'll start this long narrative. And you've got to learn how to object to that because that is an objection to long narratives. So, you let them go on for a minute and then, Your Honor, we're going to object to this narrative. They need to be asking the witness questions instead of just letting them go off on this.
Like a script that
That's so equivalent. It's just go on, for 10 minutes if you let them.
Yeah.
But you got to learn how to stop that in a polite way. We're talking about civil discourse. Your Honor, with all due respect, this witness is doing a narrative and we'd ask that she be asked questions as opposed to just answering by a narrative.
Right.
And the judge should, if they're if they read their instructions, should say sustained and don't do that.
Right.
So it's kind of fun.
Who will play the jury?
It's really not a jury. It's a pretend jury.
Okay.
There's a 3-judge panel of local attorneys that judge the case, and they don't give you a verdict. It's just how you perform. So they'll score you like from 1 to 10 on was your opening statement good? It was good. I'll give you a 7 kind of thing. And then the other side, was their opening statement good? It was okay, but it was a 6 or whatever. And they do that for all the cross-examination and direct exam. And then they add up the points. And that's how you decide if you're going to go to state or not. So if they get enough points, they participate in the state tournament in March. Yeah.
Huh.
So is the state tournament a different case or is it the same?
Same case.
Okay.
But the central regional will eliminate a bunch of teams from the central area. And if you go to state, you're going to be doing against new teams like from Oxford or Gulfport or something like that. So the better teams from each of those 3 regions will meet for the state tournament.
So if you got like a 10 for your opening statement and stuff, could you just represent that for the okay, and they just would allow that?
No, they wouldn't allow that.
Or give it like a worse score because it's the same one?
No, because you have different judges.
Okay. That's cool.
No, and you may want to polish up a little bit and make it a little more flamboyant, that kind of stuff, which is fine too.
Yeah.
I distinctly remember a student, it was kind of funny. She was really into this cross-examination and she just got all wrapped up. your statement is just garbage. That's
amazing.
I love that.
It was funny.
Yeah.
And I remember Hayes Odom and McDaniel last year. They were asking this guy Hayes was playing like an 82-year-old guy. And tell us about yourself, Mr. Smith, or whatever. I'm an 82, blah, blah, blah. You're 82. Wow. You don't look a day over 18. So you can throw a little humor in there. And everybody laughed when they said that.
Right.
Even the opposition laughed, the judges laughed. Because you just, it's not really, really serious tension all the time. So you can break it up with a little humor like that.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, that's funny. But yeah, I urge people at least try one of these. It'd be fun to try. And there's no pressure. It really isn't. Nobody's going to grade you or anything like that. Just have some fun.
It's good to learn to speak in public and, present your opinions in a civil way.
Exactly. Yeah. Nobody does that anymore. We don't have a speech and debate club here.
We should.
Well, see, I got to be careful. If I say too much about that, guess who's going to run that?
Right.
I'm kidding. I did that once with the newspaper, saying, a kid wanted to do the newspaper, and I agreed to help him a little bit. And sure enough, I ran a newspaper for 1 year.
Yeah.
We had. I don't know if y'all even remember that. It's probably before your time up here.
I think
I got here in 9th grade.
Yeah.
So
this was 5-6 years ago.
Yeah.
And now there was a printed edition too, which was interesting.
Wow.
But now we don't. Even some of all the other schools that do still have newspapers are all online now. So
because I don't think because we could do it like this is still a news club that we have. I've thought about printing stuff out, but the amount of people that don't look at posters and stuff like that, I don't think they'll do it. I have a website up that's that has original news stories. I haven't posted on there in a little bit because I thought that the podcast would be a little bit more modern.
It is.
Try to do it. And I'll probably try to take, if I have some free time, I'll try to take podcasts and turn it into like a news story section. I haven't done that for some reason, but I'll get there eventually.
Yeah.
Or broadcast journalism would be good too, or sports broadcasting, something like that. That'd be good to help you get used to speaking in public.
Right.
So, but this is different because it's not like as an audience out there listening to you. You're just talking. So I think the same way with broadcast journalism works the same way. If you're paranoid of audiences.
Well, me and him, we do commentating for the JV games.
There you go.
It kind of helps us, or helps me at least, with like speaking out loud and into like the video and or the camera and everything.
And it's live, so if you screw it up, it's good.
So I got that pressure too. So
you gotta run off of it somehow.
Yeah.
So I've learned a lot of public speaking stuff just for that. So I've loved it a lot.
It's like student council. I learned to really get out of my shell and speak around March of last year, and decided that the best way to teach myself how to speak is just to throw myself out there.
Yes.
And I
sink or swim.
Yeah.
Sink or swim. I sat there in front of all the students and presented to become student council president. Obviously, I'm not popular enough to do that, but I still did get up there and do it. But I think a lot of people need to learn how to speak, and I love these. I'm not going to be a lawyer. I don't think that's kind of where I'm pushed, but it's still really interesting to hear and listen to these things. It's like sometimes on TV you'll listen to them, or you'll see like news clips of it, and it's interesting to watch.
Mm-hmm.
So
don't go by Hollywood for how trials work.
Some of those shows are
clear.
interesting.
Yeah.
You don't go investigate the case in the middle of your trial. Generally, that's frowned upon.
Yeah.
They don't want to do that.
It's interesting for a movie, though.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
100%.
Oh, yeah.
So we've talked about all these clubs and stuff, but I want to make it into I want to put this into a Christian kind of perspective now. So we've been knowing you for being able to make students think critically, right? So with that, how important is it for people to know about the world, not just like headline news or like Babylon Bees that we've been looking at so far and stuff?
My Babylon Bees.
I love the Babylon Bees too. Those are always good. But how do people make sure not to just read the headline and be like, oh, that person's evil? Like, for instance, Charlie Kirk, like, oh, that person was like the worst person ever and stuff like that. How do people make sure as a Christian to not read it as just the text?
Well, before you even get to that, I think we got to understand that as Christians, we just can't sit on the sidelines.
Yeah.
You've got to be involved. And that's not, I mean, the Bible doesn't say you can't be involved in politics. I think you should be involved in politics. You need to let people know there is a Christian perspective out there and it is not bad.
Absolutely.
In fact, it can make your life pretty nice. You've got to get out there and do it. And there's a fear in that, I know, especially when you guys go off to college, the pressure's going to be great, to not go to church or do whatever you're going to do, that Christian stuff, don't worry about that. But it really, you're going to miss something big in your life if you do that.
Yeah.
Find some good friends that will go to church with you. Find some people you hang out with that you're not embarrassed to do things with them. Like if they're trying to get you to do something that you don't want to do, find some new friends.
Mm.
There are plenty of people out there that they're good people, and they're more good than bad.
Right.
And we forget about that because if you live your life on TikTok, you would think the world is insane.
Mm-hmm.
It's a small percentage of the world.
Right.
You want to get on TikTok and give your nice perspective on things, that's fine. But no, you're going up against the tidal wave.
Right.
It's not a nice place to hang out. I mean, like Twitter's the same thing, or X, whatever you want to call it now. I mean, that's where I get my news now. Nobody gets their news off the traditional press anymore.
Yeah.
But you've got to sift through a lot of garbage to get to the real news.
Mm-hmm.
And don't think that everybody's against you, or there's so many people that hate Christ, that hate religion, and maybe I'm just a real small minority and I shouldn't be in this forum. It's not true. There are a lot of people out there that agree with you. They're just afraid to talk.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can talk, you're giving them voice too. So get out there and say what you believe. God's got your back.
Yeah.
You don't have to be afraid.
That's a good perspective for it.
It sounds scary, but you shouldn't be. Don't be scared.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I don't know what else to do to encourage y'all. So, don't give up, because there are up and downs in life. At times you're going to be really upset and you want to blame God or somebody else in your life, whatever, but sometimes it's usually on you and you can fix it. Just ask for help and go back and dust off and get right back up there and keep pulling away.
Right. Another question I want to have since we're talking about this, how does understanding our identity in Christ change the way that we view other people that we disagree with? How does that put it into perspective for that?
Well, you mentioned Charlie Kirk.
Yeah.
And I didn't follow Charlie Kirk much. I knew who he was, and I saw some clips of him before he was assassinated. But I went back and watched a lot of
His stuff.
Yeah. And I've got his new book coming. It's like back ordered. I think I'm going to get it in 2 weeks, but I'm anxious to read it.
Yeah.
But he was really good at turning someone's question around that was hostile towards someone or something.
Right.
And he's like, well, why do you think that? Just let's talk about that some more.
Yeah.
I just saw a clip the other day when they had a father and son who were at each other's throats because of politics. And he said, well, you don't have to agree on everything. Do you have some common ground? And he walked them through the fact that they did have some common ground. And they would look so happy that they figured that out. It's like, they're not complete opposites. They have some common ground. Let's stick with that and then go from there.
Yeah.
And understand the other person's view. If it's terrible, maybe it's because that's all they heard before, and they haven't heard the view from you. So how do you get them to listen to you? You don't yell at them, curse them out or anything. You just well, let's talk about this. Let's have a conversation about this.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the way it used to be. Let's go to lunch. Let's talk about it. If you can understand the person before you get into the ideology that they might have. A friend of mine used to say, her mother would say, never discuss money or politics or religion with your friends. It's like, well, yeah, that's a safe way of doing it. But at some point, those are going to come up.
Yeah.
And if you do it in a loving way and not a condescending way, and if hey, I just want to know where you're coming from. Yeah, I think you can have a conversation.
Yeah.
And that's where you just have to start with a conversation. And you don't hate the buddy. I mean, my husband has a great friend who's like, I think he was the best man at our wedding, has a completely different political view than he did. They just don't talk politics. They just agree to disagree. And they don't talk politics. But there are a lot of other things you can talk about besides politics.
Right.
So they still have a great friendship. So that's what you need to do. Find your common ground.
It's still people at the end of the day. So, I mean,
Yep.
not everything, culture's pushing a lot of things about it. Everything's politics. But I mean, at the end of the day, we're all just people trying to figure out the problem in different ways.
And plus, your view over your lifetime is going to change. You're going to go back and forth. You know, when you're young, you tend to be more liberal than you are when you're more conservative when you're older, that kind of thing. It doesn't always work that way. And then when you get to be really older, you get back to being liberal again. That's, you know, the stereotype. But be understanding that if you can change or if you have a different perspective, then that person might change and have a different perspective in the future too.
Right.
So don't just write them off. Or, you know, stamp them as that this person's a crazy liberal. I'm not going to talk to him anymore. Or that person's a right-wing idiot. I'm not going to talk to them anymore. Give them some time. And it may be all right.
Right. So to close this off, I kind of have a thing that I do for every episode now, where I do like a hot take. So we'll see how these goes because I haven't thought about these recently, but big picture, what's one skill you want students to leave your clubs with that matters most way beyond just school?
Do your own research.
Mm.
You know, don't trust what other people are telling you. Do your own research.
Right.
Make up your own mind. You know, even if you're the only one in the room that believes a certain thing or a certain way, you know, stick with it if you did the research and you're confident in it.
Right.
Current events.
Yeah, that's what actually has helped me a lot with political stuff as well.
I've loved doing those. Sometimes I'll be a little late doing them, but it's been interesting just going through and actually not getting everything I see off of, you know, social media, actually trying to find like 2 or 3 places to cross-reference it.
Yeah.
Some places it seems a little biased, but again, that could be on both sides.
Sure.
Some sides like this is extremely one way or the other. It's hard to find something in the middle. But you can cross-reference them. It's like you can form your own opinion on it.
Yeah.
You know, it's somewhere in the middle. You get the right and the left. You're like, okay, I like the middle part.
Yeah.
Find somewhere in the middle.
But that's the whole point of that exercise, you know, for you to understand that the writers have a bias. And sometimes it's obvious, sometimes it's not. But that's why you do your own research. You know, just don't accept what you read all the time.
Right.
Especially what you see on TikTok.
Yeah. I got one more here. Is there any one habit you see in students who actually grow, not just academically?
Reading. Read outside the classroom. Read a book. There's some really good classics out there, guys. They're really great books. Stuff that I've read in high school that stick with me to this very day. You know, and I know I don't have time to read. You know, okay, well, get an audiobook. That's close enough, you know. I listen to books all the time now still when I walk, you know, and I exercise.
Yeah.
But get a book. Find one. You need a recommendation? I'll give you several. But just find some great book. Find some classics. You know, just, this book was written 300 years ago. How do they have any idea what I feel now? Believe it or not, the same themes we've been having through, you know, 5,000.
That's why people say history repeats itself sometimes. Yeah.
Sometimes it does.
Yeah.
Yeah, and throw a little time for the Bible in there too. Wouldn't hurt, you know.
Yeah.
You have to do a Bible in a year. That's fine too. It'll get you there eventually.
Yeah.
What book would you recommend if you could only give a high school student one book to read? What would you give them?
It depends on what they like. If they're a history guy, or 1776 by David McCullough. You know, it talked about how perilous our situation was during the beginning of the war, the Revolutionary War, and it's amazing how we won that war. Just amazing. But it just, the tenacity of Washington and the people that work for him and stuff is great. It got me really into modern day history books. You know, love that book. But gosh, there's so many classics. Even things like Dickens is hard to read sometimes, but A Tale of Two Cities, you know, it gives you a little bit about the French Revolution, but it's just, these are timeless cases, timeless books.
Yeah.
You know, good versus evil and doing the right thing and having your hero go through a whole bunch of barriers and have to get to where they get, and just gives you some courage that maybe you could do the same thing. Anyway, and do the noble thing. Do what's right.
Yeah.
And you know in your heart what's right.
Right.
You know, and just try at least.
Yeah.
We're not perfect. You're going to stumble. Just get back up again.
Yeah.
Comes with learning how to speak.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I want to thank you for your time.
Sure.
And thank you for, you know, running 4 different clubs over here. I bet that's fun. But
Respect to you.
with a lot of different things on your plate, it's been fun even taking your class. It's been still one of my favorites.
When you do the club, I get to know you better. That's another fun thing about it. When you're in class, you don't get to know the students very much, what they want to do, what their future is going to be, and all that.
Right.
So, it's kind of fun. Give you some advice, career-wise and otherwise, if you get in a club.
Yeah.
Well, that's going to wrap up everything. You can, if you finish this episode, you can give us 5 stars on Spotify. We're trying to work on Apple at the moment. On YouTube, you can subscribe. We've gotten past 20 now.
Yes, we have.
So over 3,000 views so far as the time of recording. But that's going to be it from us over here. And as always, go Hawks!